And we dig into this and we look at an example of, for example, SMS marketing. Well, Canadians, 35% of NGen and 42% of boomers, they like the idea of receiving mobile text alerts for products and offers. And again, these products and offers, they need to be timely and they need to be relevant and, they need to be in context. And they need to be opted in as well, which is a really important distinction too. So these are things, but there is an appetite for doing this. And I show up there the Ashley Furniture, and again, if you go on Google and you search Ashley Furniture SMS marketing, you'll find a number of case studies out there that are related to this. And they were pretty successful trying out an SMS campaign to drive people to a store. And I think they provided a 10% discount on a specific day when you came in with this offer attached with it. The really interesting thing here that I think, and from a marketing perspective, I think everybody should sort of sit up and take notice of this, is when they did the analysis and looked at the numbers and looked at really the return on investment of this, they actually did an email campaign side by side with the SMS campaign. The email came back at $14 per message. That was the return on investment on that. The SMS was $1.85 per message. So you can see that it was far more cost effective to do the SMS versus the email system in that case.
Now, another thing about the email in this case was these are HTML email ads with full creative, and there's a cost to that, while the SMS was simply 160 characters. And another part of this to consider was they made the acquisition of email addresses and cell numbers a part of everyone's job out there. So their staff on the floor had quotas of email addresses and cell numbers to actually collect during a day. And they had roughly 30,000 visitors come through their store on any given week. There was a lot of potential there to collect information from them.
So we move on to targeted ads. And I know everybody's saying, oh no, not ads within the mobile space, but obviously you've got Apple and Google who bought AdMob there last year. And Microsoft, everybody is jumping on this in a very, very big way and getting into the mobile ad game, and it obviously has some huge potential. Now, one of the reasons why I think a lot of people are really paying attention to this as well is the fact that, initial click-through rates are much higher. It could be that there is a certain amount of novelty factor with it where it is still new to be found within mobile applications, but it is higher than traditional sort of display ads on the web. And when we ask Canadians about sort of what they think about it, over a quarter said they like the idea of receiving product advertisements through their mobile. However, again, if it's relevant or contextual to the situation you're in. So as I show in this example here, somebody's looking up a weather of a place, and you could argue that we know where they actually are located. So say they're in Toronto, but they're looking up another place, they might need travel insurance. So this is something just to keep in mind, is that when you are placing ads in different places, that you keep within that contextual environment. The other thing I want to point out with this as well is, and this is something that I see time and time again, and I'm not really sure why, again, this is being overlooked, but at the end of the day, your mobile device, most mobile devices, it's a phone. And you have this enormous opportunity to provide people an immediate close-the-deal function as part of the overall campaign. So you can imagine someone clicks on the ad, they go to the landing page, and time again I see a form that someone has to fill out or something much more difficult to try to do on a mobile device versus why can't there just be a click-to-call button? And I'm not saying everybody does this. I see it time and time again where there's many organizations that are actually putting a click-to-call feature on it. But it's a great way to help sort of close the deal immediately and really leverage the fact that it's a phone. And there's almost sort of people kind of almost forget that for some reason. So the last section I'm going to focus on here is going to talk a little bit about how you can actually manage the mobile channel and more things to think about as well as you're going through and thinking about whether you're building an application or optimizing your mobile website. One of the things I love about this quote is is the fact that Harris Interactive, they actually did a study and found that most people make their decision to download or use a mobile app based on the recommendations that it was a good experience. So not that it was a brand name or a company they recognized, but the fact that it was rated high as a good experience. And I mean, we see this time and time again with social media programs as well, where, you know, gets a product gets high ratings and the sales do better. I mean, it's that simple. If it is a good product, you are going to get good results from that. And deeper into the actual Harris Interactive study, they actually talked about that 69% agree that if the brand name mobile application is not useful, helpful, or easy to use, it results in a negative perception about the brand. So it can have the opposite effect on it, that you might think you've created this great value add to your customers, and then you've created a really poor experience, and it's actually backfired. I mean, you could argue there's lots of examples out there of that, but it just goes to show that it's really important that you fully understand how to leverage the mobile channel, and this really starts with the idea of being user-centered or customer-centric about how to actually leverage this channel and not just running in and doing anything and everything. So the three things I'm going to touch on here, and again, we go into more explanation of these three things within the actual report itself, but I'm going to touch on the three right now. And the first thing is lined up exactly to what I just said around the customer experience and how important it is to keep it really simple and straightforward. Starting off, simple in terms of maybe the features and functions that you might want to build into something. You don't necessarily have to replicate everything in whether it's an app or the site. You need to keep it simple and easy for people to use. The other thing to keep in mind too is that the idea that, these are personal devices, they're connected to you. So, I mean, obviously spam going into your email has been something that's been talked about, discussed, and debated for a long, long time, and it still continues today, and we've got many spam filters about this. But there tends to be, obviously there's concern about that, but if you start to, for example, spam somebody into their mobile device, there tends to be more of this, it's in my pocket, it's really connected with me, this is part of of who I am. It's like reaching in and literally putting something in someone's wallet. You almost feel violated in a way, and we're seeing a lot of that around the mobile devices where there's a real personal connection or attachment to these devices. The last thing is the idea of the environment and context of the environment. So I'm not trying to pick on anybody with these examples here, but this is actually a billboard that was up on a major freeway leading into Toronto here in the springtime. And, I mean, they put up a QR code, in this case it was a scan-like code, up on the billboard. Well, you can imagine driving your vehicle at 100 kilometers an hour along the freeway and trying to take a picture of the billboard, let alone QR code. It's pretty difficult, not to mention, depending on the time of day, the sun can be your way and so on and so forth. So it's really, just put it in context, it's not a great place to actually put something like that in there in terms of using a QR code in this actual context. The other thing, too, is there's actually some standards out there that, how big a QR code, for example, needs to be as it relates to the actual ad. Now, I can't remember, Randy, if you know what it is, but I think it's something like for every 6 feet back, you need to be...
It's like 12 inches for every 10 feet or something like that.
Right. So if you go on scanlight.com, I believe they actually have the actual measurements there, but it's something you want to consider when you're doing this. The other thing as well is that and I know everybody is seeing a lot more usage around QR codes right now, which is great. But sometimes, you know what? You could probably just switch and use SMS. And I mean, SMS is absolutely huge. It's obviously something that's more used. It's refined. People understand how to leverage it. So instead of using a QR program, run an SMS program instead. It might actually yield better results. So next, the idea of providing value. I mean, any marketer recognizes the fact that they always try to provide value. I mean, there's many loyalty programs out there that's their whole idea, customer loyalty programs, that the whole idea is to provide additional value to those loyal customers, provide incentives, so on and so forth. There's no, when you talk about the mobile medium, and getting them to use or try these new technologies, there needs to be some kind of value that's returned. I can't tell you how often I'll go back to the QR code, for example, and I'll take a quick shot of the QR code, and what do I get in response? I get a web page that loads really, really slow, and it's poor, and it gives me nothing else of value that the ad didn't actually give me. So again, it has that negative impression with it. I show here the example of the Starbucks example using Foursquare. They rewarded that person, and it's really the cost of a latte. I mean, it's nothing really when you think about it, but they rewarded that person, provided an incentive for them going out and using this technology. I mean, they provided additional value, and they probably got a lot more engagement out of that as well. The other thing I wanted to point out here as well is the idea of the brand butler. And this is something, if you actually go on trendwatching.com, it's a great source of all kinds of new trends going on all across the world. Anyway, they came up with this idea of these brand butlers, and you see a lot of examples out there today with mobile applications. But you start to have to think about marketing more as a service when you're providing these kinds of applications. So I can think of there was a Korean that came out with it was a kind of find your pet store in your neighborhood, and that's all it really did, and that was fine. And it did provide some value, I guess you could say, but it could have provided more value with that in terms of providing an incentive after I went to certain stores, or maybe there was a discount code or something more of it. So it was sort of limited to what it could actually do. So it really didn't leverage the capabilities fully like it could have.